Hi there, I'm Brad McQuaid, Chief Creative Officer of Visionary Realms, and also one of the producers of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. We're here on Kickstarter to ask you for help in the creation of a new MMO. Just a huge open world to explore. It has an emphasis on grouping and working together, making friends, and we also have this really neat combat system that we're putting together that's deeper and hopefully a lot more fun than what you've seen in other MMOs. Our vision for the game is group focused. We feel that when people are working together as a team, that they can accomplish a lot more and feel a lot better afterwards.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. EQ Nostalgia here, and I'm just sitting here thinking about how there seems to be a couple different types of crowds forming up around Pantheon, and I find it interesting. If you read the Steam forums, you'll notice that there's a trend. There's people who are more like me. They're your old school traditional holdout type, kind of doing the gatekeeping thing, and with good reason. You know, we've seen a lot of games change over the years into something we didn't want. So for the people who don't understand why we're so insistent upon keeping things classic, even if it means less people will play the game, that's why. Because a lot of us are kind of castaways. And for me personally, EverQuest Online Adventures was that game where I was cast away when it shut down in 2012. And slowly that's coming back around with private servers, thank God, because that game is an absolute gem. If you played it, you know what I'm talking about. There's really nothing like it. It's very unique. It leans closer to EverQuest 1 than the modern stuff you play now, but I don't know. It was just, it struck a perfect balance between, if I had to sum it up, I like how somebody else put it. It was a casual game for hardcore players, if that makes sense. So it wasn't very casual, but it was more casual than, say, you know, corpse runs and that sort of thing. You still had a death penalty. But the other side of this debate, they're like, hey, you know, if you guys want this game to get funded, you need to just, you need to let them make it more modern. And I understand that argument, right? But at the same time, somebody was saying, well, the game failed 3 or 4 times to get the funding that they wanted, and you know, it's going to fail again if they don't turn it into something that the mainstream wants. Well, I would petition to you that it still fails if it succeeds in that regard. What do I mean? Well, the original goal of Brad McQuaid, the visionary behind this game, said that it was not going to be all things to all people. So if the game comes out and it's all things to all people, even if it's successful, that's great for Visionary Realms. But for those of us who backed it and talked about it for years, we're still going to see that as a fail, because it's not holding to the core tenets that it's sought out to be, right? And I wouldn't even necessarily say it failed to get funding because it was using those hardcore tenets. I think there's a lot of other variables in there to account for why it quote-unquote failed to be successful over a 10-year period. 2 key developers passed away, one of which being Brad McQuaid himself. Then you had the whole 2020 scenario with the whole lockdown nonsense. That was a good time. They had to switch their engine. I can't remember. There's a couple of different stories on why they had to do that. But nevertheless, they had to change the engine. And yeah, they made mistakes along the way. Who doesn't make mistakes along the way? So I've been harsh on Visionary Realms in the past, especially last year after the whole 243 thing. I was pissed.
They know they're going to be in trouble. So honestly, and I could be wrong, okay, I could be wrong. We could witness a miracle where the first time ever, where somebody's tried this crap to branch off like Landmark and make something else out of it and then develop it from there, blah, blah, blah. I could be wrong, maybe. This is the one time that it pans out. The one time that it actually works out. It's not going to work out, guys. It's just not. And if it does work out, it's too late. It's just too late. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming out. It's dude, it's been almost 10 years. Do you understand?
I had one of my videos taken down from the MMORPG subreddit, and I know it was somebody on the inside who had that happen.
So now I'm going to expose how these guys are garbage. And I'm going to very clearly show you how they censored me. This was starting to get traction over here. They took it down. I find it funny that the video that I literally just uploaded was showing people how the same exact shit happened to me with Landmark and with EverQuest Next. The same exact shit. Now look, they thought they were going to be slick and they deleted their comment. But let me show you something, folks. Let me show you something that your boy saved real quick. You see that? You guys can see that, right? Very sus, he says. Well, this is worded the same way. 4 days self-promotion. Very sus, huh? You know what I think is very sus? This shit right here. This shit is pretty sus from where I'm sitting, asshole. My subs haven't seen me this mad in years, so congratulations. Look at this shit. Are you kidding me? Same wording, practically identical wording, okay? And then take a look at what they did to cover their tracks. They got it taken down over here. And they got it taken down over here. This is where they control it, okay? They had to petition to get it taken down. They reported it, and now it's up for review. But I'm sure they got more than enough clout over here to get it taken down.
Because they used the same verbiage when taking down my video on the Visionary Realms official Pantheon subreddit. And evidently, I'm not entirely certain if it's related, but one of those people was let go, or so I heard. So, yeah, while it was never my intention to see that happen, I'm sure they did other things that brought them into question. But yeah, there's been some censorship over the years, and to me it looks like they really cleaned up on that. They're not doing that anymore. So there have been a lot of reasons why the game, quote unquote, failed to get fully funded over the past several years. And I don't think by going mainstream now at this point, especially, I don't think that's gonna, be a win. And I think that a lot of people would come into it and then they would just leave. And I heard somebody say this, I don't remember where it was, I think it might have been one of my comments. They said, well, if you make it into a modern MMO, all you have is an ugly looking modern MMO. And I do like the visionary changes, or the visionary. I got Visionary Realms on the brain. I do like the visual changes. For the most part, at first I hated it, but it tends to grow on you. And again, I come from EQOA, a game that was very colorful and stylistic. I don't mind stylized graphics. I think the character models need some work. I've said that for a while. The world itself has like this, almost like a cel-shaded Breath of the Wild look going on meets Valheim. And I think that they need to get their character models more in line with that. It seems like they just stand out a bit to me. But it's a work in progress, right? They're going to be developing this over the next few years. And I don't see any reason to try to turn this into a more modern game. I do believe there's certain concessions that can be made, right? Like, say, the death penalty, I'm not even opposed to them making it so you don't de-level. I like debt. I like the debt-based system. Again, going back to EQOA, I know it's crazy, right? I love the first MMO I ever played, but I like the debt system because de-leveling is a pain in the butt. But if it stays the same, that's fine with me too. But I do think they'll be making certain concessions, and I really, really hope that they don't concede on the nighttime being dark. A lot of games have done this over the years. A lot of games, including EverQuest, where the nights went from very dark to, it's kind of like midday with maybe overcast weather. I don't like that. I remember playing Classic or Vanilla WoW, and I put on the Darker Nights mod. And was it kind of a detriment to me, especially when I was in very dark areas like I can't even think of the name of the place where Stitches roams around. You guys, if you played WoW, you know what I'm talking about. Darkwood or something like that. Duskwood. it was lethal for me. I got killed multiple times, but I didn't change it because I don't know, there's just something about that. It's really immersive for me, and nighttime should be more dangerous. When I play Fallout 4, I always mod the world to be a lot darker, and I make it a lot more dangerous. Enemies are more lethal. But then I'll also mod things in that give me a little bit of an advantage so that when I sneak in the dark, I'm harder to see. And things like that. Same thing with Skyrim. I go with the darker nights, and then I really overtune lighting for stuff like the Mage Light spell. I'll get like crazy particle effect mods to make them look really, really cool. Just firing off Mage Light in the middle of a dungeon and watching it light up the area as it goes by. I love that kind of stuff, and it's one of the things that Monsters and Memories is doing that I really love. The way that the spells look in that game in the dark, it just lights up like half the dungeon you're standing in.
I found it.
Cool.
You got it? You found his body?
Dude, light sources by the water at night are my new favorite thing.
Yeah, it looks cool.
That is so
I love the spell effects too.
Yeah. It's gorgeous, and I really like that. Some people don't like that. That's the way it is. But it does remind me of something that I've heard somebody say. Why would you walk into, like, say, a Pizza Hut and order a cheeseburger, and if they don't have one, you demand that they start selling cheeseburgers? Right? You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. So we've got a lot of people coming over here, and they're like, hey, you guys, you need to get with the times over here. You need to, yes, I know, Kitty, in a little while. He's coming in here reminding me he wants to eat. Why would you go into a place and demand that it start selling something that it was never selling? Pick up the box and read it. It tells you, right? Like not literally, but read the Steam page. Read what this game is about. Do a little bit of research. You should not be coming into this game and getting mad that, oh man, I dropped my stuff when I die? What the heck? That's awful. Well, you can have somebody summon it to you. And I think one of the more interesting concessions to be made, if I was going to have them make one, is that getting your corpse back should reward you some of your XP back, whether it be all of it or a portion of it. I don't know, it's up in the air. But I think it would be nice that if you physically retrieved your corpse, as in you went in and got it yourself, and you got some XP back, that would be cool. If somebody summons it to you, you don't get any XP back. That I've seen some really good ideas coming from the community over this kind of stuff. So this back and forth, it doesn't have to be an us versus them. We are seeing some pretty interesting ideas popping up over this, right? And society tends to be all in or all out. If I don't agree with you on everything, all right, well, I'm unsubscribing now. I've had people do that to me. They'll see one video they don't like from me, and they're like, oh man, I've watched you for years, I'm out. Okay, bye. We don't have to agree on absolutely everything. I saw somebody do that to somebody else in one of their videos. They're like, you're being hypocritical in this video, and I've watched you for years. Therefore, peace. I'm going to dip out. Like, I don't know, it just feels like people have been conditioned to be in complete agreement with people, or else we can't just get along at all. Everybody just has to go their separate ways. I don't like that, and that's one of the things I've noticed. But like I said, you get some fruitful discussion when you have two different sides, vying for control over which way this game goes. But I think that the onus is on the newcomers to try to change our minds, and not vice versa, because, well, that's what this game was sold as, a classic, hardcore, old school MMORPG. And if they completely concede on that and turn it into something else, people are going to be pissed, and rightfully so. It's one of the reasons why I got pissed off at the private server for EQOA. They told everybody, we're going to be making this as much as like live, when the game was live, as possible. And then they started making all these different changes. Oh, we don't like that weapon. It's too strong. It's got to go. We don't like the fact that people are boxing. We're going to make it so you can only dual box, no tri or quad boxing. We don't want you going AFK on your necromancer and getting AFK XP like you used to, or your mage. We're going to get rid of that. And we're adding fall damage to a game that never had fall damage. And forget the fact that, some of the quests in the game required you to fall in a very far distances, so yeah, compromising on something that you told people was going to be one thing and they gave you a bunch of money over the years, and then becoming something else is never a good thing. You're just going to piss people off. Will they get more people on board? Yeah, probably. But how long are they going to stick around? I don't know. One thing about old school MMORPG fans is we tend to stick around for a while. We tend to be okay with paying that money. And, in some instances, people have like 4 accounts plus where they're boxing and they're, I remember hearing about people back on the PlayStation 2. They had 4 PS2s, 4 copies of EQOA, and they paid their subscription fees times 4. And it still blows my mind that people did that. But they did. They were dedicated. And, and another one of the arguments I see from people is that, well, the kind of person that has 6+ hours to dedicate in one sitting to the game shouldn't be who we're catering to. Really? By what standard? I have to adult more than you, or I have, and it doesn't matter. It should be more accessible to me. I have kids. I have a family. All right, well, you've got other games to play then. There are many games for you to play that take that into consideration and quote-unquote respect your time more. There are plenty of games that quote-unquote have quality of life put into them that you can go and enjoy right now, man. Coming into this space, and this is the way that I see it, and demanding that it change is just ridiculous. Like I said, I can see why people believe that way, but in my opinion, it's the wrong approach, and it's not gonna go over well. Now, I'm not saying like all of this really started from the torch debate. By the way, I just did a video on that a few days ago, and ever since the torch thing, people have been kind of losing their minds over it. And according to Joppa and those guys, this is just a temporary thing. They always planned on having other lighting sources like Fire Beetle Eye, etc. But I've seen some interesting things about the torch. How if you have a torch in your hand, it should exude more light. And if you have a lantern on your belt, well, because it's closer to your person, it should be, maybe it's not as good because you're not holding it out, so the lighting source isn't as good. All these things they said they want to tweak to make everybody happy. For the most part, but you're never going to really satisfy everyone, right? And I hope they don't fall into the trap of thinking that they're going to be able to make everybody happy, because you're not. At a certain point, and this is directly to Visionary Realms, you're going to have to draw a line in the sand, man, where you're not going to be able to make the newcomers happy. And I do know that they don't want things to be just old school and accessible. And I've heard Joppa himself say, I want to do this in a way that will be more inviting to the casuals to come and give it a shake, give it a chance. And that's a risky move. I think it can be done, but it's going to be really hard, and you're going to be sacrificing things if you go too far on one side or the other. So it's just a risky endeavor. It is, and I understand from a monetary standpoint. You want to get as many people in here as you can, especially now. The resounding success that they're having on Steam, they're doing really good. I've seen them peak at like 6,500 on Steam. That's not counting the thousands of other people that are logging in off of their launcher, yours truly included. So it's there's a lot of people playing. If you look at the server lists during peak hours, a lot of the servers are full. They are doing great. So I hope that they haven't gotten a taste of success and now they're thinking, well, we can compromise a little bit more. I don't really want to see that happen. Would it be cool to see somebody make like a WoW classic, like a vanilla WoW style game? Yeah, I'd be all about it. I'd play it. But I don't want it to be this game. Not really. I think it needs to be more hardcore than even that was. And by that I mean I want to see death penalties. Death should be scary. and I've said it before, I went on a journey away from home around level 10 on my shaman, and I was feeling it, man. The further I went, the more that looming sensation of, oh man, I'm far away from home. I don't know if you've ever been a kid. I grew up in the country. We would take our bikes and we'd go riding all around the place, before it was really dangerous to do so, like the 80s and early 90s. And I remember one time we went all the way to the beach, and the beach was far away. And every time we were pedaling, I was just thinking to myself, man, we're getting further and further away from home. And there was this certain unsettled feeling about that. And that's why when I was watching The Lord of the Rings and they get to that point in the field, the hobbits are like, I've never been this far away from the Shire before. Once I cross this field and I go into this forest, and they're like, this is, I've never come this far before.
This is it. This is what? If I take one more step, it'll be the farthest away from home I've ever been. Come on, Sam.
This is a weird feeling. And that's adventure. That essence right there, that spirit, that feeling of, man, I've never been this far. This is freaky, but it's exciting. That is what I love about old school MMOs. And when I felt that on my shaman, and I had to be really careful, and I got into trouble with a bee that did way too much damage when it died, and reminded me real quick how far away I am from home, that felt great. Was it freaky? Yes. But at the same time, I'm thinking, man, it's starting to get dark. I need to find a road. I need to get into town. I cannot afford to get lost over here. I don't have a map to show me where I am. If I go sprinting in one direction, I'm definitely going to scoop up more aggro than I already have, and I'm going to be in trouble. I'm going to die in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to lose all my stuff. Why did I bring 4 gold with me? I thought I banked it. Dang it. That's, that is living, man. Like, that's adventure. And if you don't have that struggle and that sense of loss and that risk versus reward, you're just playing modern World of Warcraft. And you're going to get bored faster. And your gains aren't going to feel so good. And it's just, it's all about the journey. I keep making that reference to Lord of the Rings because it's true. And that's why old D&D and, the old school style of MMORPGs that evolved from the mud scene, that's what they were embodying. And they did it very well. And then QOL, the quality of life crept in more and more and more. And it's a slippery slope. And I just want people to understand that. If you like more casual games, I don't hate you. I like to play more casual games as well. But this is not that. And people shouldn't be here stomping their feet demanding that it should be. But right now, I want to turn it over to you guys. What do you think about this down in the comments section? If you're new here, I ask that you please subscribe. Click that like button, hit the notification bell, blah, blah, blah. Get down in the comments. It really helps with the algorithm. God bless. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.
When groups have finally conquered a vast underground dungeon, they'll feel a great sense of accomplishment. Quite simply, the greater the risk, the greater the reward.
One reason we chose Kickstarter is that we're making a game with a target audience. We're not trying to make a game that is all things to all people.